And Amy, so Republicans rolled out their Obamacare Replace yesterday, the American Health Care Act, which, according to Kevin Brady, a Republican from California, and the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, said in an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, the American Health Care Act will rescue those hurt by Obamacare's failures and lay the groundwork for a patient-centered health care system, preserves and protects insurance for more than 150 million Americans who receive employer-sponsored health coverage, provides Obamacare enrollees with access to existing financial support for their plans through the end of 2019. So there's a transition period, if you will, on some of the key favored features of Obamacare among the general public. It allows kids to stay on their parents' health insurance till age 26. Kids, 26.
Even if they're married, you can stay on it, by the way.
Yeah. And also prohibits denial of coverage for persons with pre-existing conditions. Also, now on the other side, it repeals funding for Planned Parenthood. Also starts to repeal some of the taxes and penalties, including eliminating the individual and employer mandate penalties. So what's the net of all of this? A good replace to follow a repeal, or less optimal than desired? We get the answer to that question from our friend C. Stephen Tucker, Obamacare expert, health insurance policy and marketplace expert, and the founder of healthinsurancementors.com, which is a health insurance brokerage. C.S. Tucker, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Jen and Amy.
So give us your review of what has been proposed by congressional Republicans.
Well, as usual, there is good and there's also bad. The good, let's start with the good. The good is that the individual employer mandates are now gone. And that means that if you do not purchase health insurance in 2017, or if you did not have it in 2016, there will be no IRS penalty for not doing so. So that's good. The employer mandate for companies with 50 or more full-time employees, they have to purchase health insurance or pay stiff penalties. That is history. So that's good. So those are some of the good things. Keeping your kids on your plan to year 26, as you mentioned, that was the case in most states long before Obamacare, so that's nothing new. There's also going to be a much shorter open enrollment period, starting on November 1st and lasting only until December 15th, so 45 days only instead of the typical 60 to 90 days, as it has been since the end of 2013. And that's going to hopefully cut down on adverse selection because less people will be able to game the system. So that's a good thing. Another good thing is that there's going to have to be a continuous coverage requirement, which is piggybacking on 1996 HIPAA law. That law outlined how one could obtain health insurance coverage for pre-existing conditions, because you will still be able to get coverage for pre-existing conditions under the new Republican proposal. However, you will not be able to game the system quite as easily, and I'll expand on that in a minute, but you have to have continuous coverage, at least 12 months of prior continuous coverage in order to get coverage for pre-existing conditions, and you can't have a lapse in coverage of more than 63 days. So very similar to what HIPAA law required, which was 18 months in the past. So that's good.
So
However,
okay, go on.
However, the first open enrollment period starting November 1st, the new shortened version of 45 days, you will not need that continuous coverage. So you could conceivably go without coverage this entire year, not face a penalty, and then purchase coverage without an additional surcharge during the first initial open enrollment period. As years go on, if you decide not to maintain insurance coverage, the insurance company can penalize you by charging you up to 30% more than someone who had maintained continuous coverage.
Right,
and
so the mandate's gone.
concern.
Right, but the mandate's gone, but if you let your insurance lapse, the premium can go up 30%. So it's essentially a hidden mandate, right?
It's not really a hidden mandate. It's just a way of ensuring that people are not able to game the system quite as easily. And there was my concern. Here comes the bad. Dr. Price's bill, which was what I hoped would be the actual proposal, would penalize people up to 150% more if they decided to game the system by not keeping continuous coverage and just jumping on when they get sick. Now it's only 30% more. Furthermore, you can purchase any kind of coverage going forward. So if you wanted to get, for example, a very cheap, catastrophic, or even a temporary health insurance plan, that could count as continuous coverage. And then, of course, when you get sick, you could double down and pay the extra 30% only surcharge, and the insurance company would have to pay all of your claims. So this could lead to a different form of adverse risk and, a death spiral, which is what we're always worried about in the insurance industry. So I don't know that penalty of 30% only for those who decide to game the system and not keep continuous coverage is going to be strong enough to re-incentivize the insurance companies to come back into the individual health insurance market, because, as you know, we have lost almost all of them. We have 3 left catering to the individual market in Illinois, and states like Arizona, they have 1 left. So I'm very concerned that it's not going to incentivize the insurance companies to come back, and we need them desperately to come back into the individual market.
Speaking of incentives, you've got included in this proposal is an expansion of HSAs, health savings accounts, doubling the amount of money people can contribute to their HSA, broadening how people can use it. That's a good thing. Putting, essentially a consumer choice, consumer power, and the resources to make your own spend decisions. But then the issue that has received some criticism on the Hill by Rand Paul and others, a monthly tax credit between $2,000 and $14,000 a year for low and middle income individuals who don't receive insurance through an employer or a government program. Assess those 2 pieces of the proposal.
Well, originally it was not going to be advanceable. And that was a major concern for people who are used to getting these advanced premium tax credits under Obamacare. It was going to be basically you wait till you file your taxes and then you get, a refundable tax credit, which would be very difficult for people to pay these high Obamacare premiums without that advanceable credit. So now they're going to be getting an advanceable credit. So it's $2,000 for those under 30, $2,500 between 30 and 40, $3,000 a year for 40 and 50-year-olds, $3,500 for 50 and 60-year-olds, and $4,000 a year for those over 60. So that's going to help people in these income brackets of $75,000 or less, or $150,000 or less, for a couple filing jointly to be able to obtain those tax credits. The problem is because we're trying to do this via the reconciliation process, it takes an act of Congress in order to repeal all of the insurance mandates that have been placed on insurance companies under Obamacare. And so much of those insurance mandates are still going to stay in place, including the 10 essential health benefits. So because the cost of health insurance is going to remain largely the same, it's going to be very difficult for a lot of people to be able to afford these health insurance premiums going forward, even with these refundable tax credits.
And will the tax credits be phased out over time?
No, they're going to stay there, and they're going to be, everything goes by the CPI Consumer Price Index, so they're going to be adjusted accordingly, by inflation as years go forward. So that's going to be there for everybody who qualifies. My concern is, with all of these programs, is that people on Medicaid, for example, are subsidized roughly about $6,000 a year. Okay, so if they end up no longer qualifying for Medicaid because their income slides up just slightly above the amount, then the amount of eligible tax credit they can get is $2,000 a year for those people under age 30. So that's a huge cut in the amount of quote-unquote subsidy that they're getting to pay for health insurance. So then, once again, it incentivizes those people in the Medicaid population to no longer want to earn any more money because they're going to lose $4,000 worth of a subsidy pertaining to health care. So, again, this is the same kind of problem we had under Obamacare. Yes, this is far better than Obamacare, and yes, we should take this proposal or whatever form comes out of the Senate as an alternative because it repeals a lot of the most onerous provisions of Obamacare. But it is not what I and most conservatives were asking for. We were asking for a full repeal of Obamacare, including all of the onerous mandates on health insurance. And unfortunately, many of those still exist.
Yeah, and the Medicaid expansion under Obamacare that's being rolled back is really important, particularly for states like Illinois, because as the federal government's share of that burden declines over time, as conceived by Obamacare, this becomes an even bigger budget buster than it already is for states. I mean, in Illinois, there's been some 650,000 people that have signed up under that Obamacare Medicaid expansion, and we couldn't afford to finance our Medicaid system prior to the Obamacare Medicaid expansion, much less since.
That's exactly right, and it doesn't do it right away. It's all the way until 2020 before the Medicaid expansion is starting to be scaled down. I wanted it repealed right away. Another thing I'm disappointed about, but it does give states more leverage as to how to spend their Medicaid dollars. So I'm in support of that because, as you know, in the state of Illinois, one of the most immoral parts of Obamacare is the fact that they allowed Medicaid to anyone with a pulse who happens to fall below $16,248. Traditionally, it was for single mothers, children of the poor, those who are developmentally disabled. And now it's to anyone with a pulse. So if you're, it robs those finite resources from those who cannot help themselves. And I find that to be entirely immoral. So hopefully allowing the states the ability to spend that Medicaid dollars the way they see fit will hopefully free up that money that's supposed to be there for those who truly need it.
Something that Trump mentioned in his address to Congress last week, and Republicans have made a part of their theoretical Obamacare replace, is the ability to sell health insurance plans across state lines.
And that strangely is missing.
Yeah, it's missing, and it's been criticized. It was criticized by respected individuals in this marketplace, the marketplace in which you're a respected individual as well, like Bob Lazuski, who said the idea of allowing plans to be sold across state lines is, about the dumbest reform that has ever been proposed. Why did he say that? Is it true? And why do you think the ability to sell plans across state lines was left out?
Well, it would be dumb, and I would caution against repeal of McCarran-Ferguson. McCarran-Ferguson is the 1945 Act that prevents that from happening. It would be stupid to just repeal it without a federally mandated set of benefits that health insurers have to cover. Because if they don't do that, then everyone's going to flock to the states that have the crappiest policies, the policies that provide the littlest amount of coverage, expose you to the highest amount of medical bills, and are the cheapest price, right? So everybody will flood over to a state that provides the cheapest coverage. Well, the cheapest coverage is not necessarily the best policy for you, especially if you become terminally ill. So there has to be a set of benefits that all insurance companies have to follow. And then if you do that, then the risk to the consumer is no longer there because it's going to be the same set of benefits no matter where you purchase it from. Then repeal McCarran-Ferguson and allow insurance companies to provide lower prices based on how they see fit to do so. Then you're fine, but you're not harming the consumer. That's my concern always, is the consumer being exposed to crappy policies which don't cover anything or not near enough.
All right. He is C. Stephen Tucker, healthinsurancementors.com. That's his health insurance brokerage. And as always, thank you for providing clarity and simplifying a very complicated topic. That's why you're the best in the business. C. Stephen Tucker, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
I'm Lou.